Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah.
He's like trigger happy with like trying to do all these things. I'm like, just get me out of here. I'm gonna change dentists.
Recording. Dude, what's top of mind for you this week?
It's a good question, man. Getting set up for this Coldie event tomorrow at the WIP, which should be dope, man. You know, this is always like an interesting challenge when you got a situation like Coldie's where he's got like a dope project coming out. I think it's actually in mid-launch right now, his NFT drop. And he's like sort of been on this like metaverse world tour of, explaining it to people and talking about it. And he's been in like, Hyperfly and On Cyber and Motiverse and all these different places. And then, heading into the WIP on Thursday, we're featuring Coldie. So I'm like, I want to make sure we do something cool, man. Like, put a different spin on things a little bit, get the audience in there to not only listen to Coldie's thing, but like maybe we can gamify it or make it wacky in the way that we do some of these WIP events and, serve up something real interesting and fun. So I don't know, man. We've been sort of doing this for years with the WIP with these like thought experiments on how to like keep it interesting and exciting and everything. So this should be another fun one, man. I know you've been seeing some sneak peeks on what Fractillions has been whipping up in the WIP Ground Zero parcel. So I think it's going to be pretty dope.
Yeah. I mean, WIP Ground Zero as a sandbox for us to play around with these thought experiments. Like, okay, like what could be cool for this sort of thing? Like what are people not doing elsewhere? It's a great environment. This week, like what you and Fractillions are putting together in there, like these fucking like absurdly large within the virtual space, like statues of some of these DI's legends. DI's Legends is the name of the new like Avatar VRM project that Coldie's like in the process of launching / will officially launch next week that we're going to be talking about at the WIP. So getting in there, seeing that, like one is cool, but then what you've been doing, like hiding or like placing the VRM files within the WIP Ground Zero space so that folks can jump in and then easily morph into the DI's legend so they can see what these VRMs will kind of look and feel like when they actually launch next week is pretty cool. And then the cherry on top, the gamified aspect is hiding one rare VRM and having folks, first of all, have to find it and then say, okay, you find it, and then you go to one of these like gargantuan sculptures of the same VRM type and pose with it. And then whoever does that first, Coldie's going to hook them up with a whitelist spot for the actual drop. Ooh. So they have a chance to get it. Yeah. But otherwise, it's folks who had collected the original Decentral mashup from Async Blueprints back in 2021. Those folks already have a whitelist. So Coldie's going to hook them up, whoever does that first. So it's kind of like a fun little thing. Plus, I think there's going to be cars that we're going to crash and all that fun shit. Like we experienced last week.
We've sort of layered up the game a little bit, but I won't ruin the surprise for tomorrow. But it will involve something like that. But dude, I feel like and Johan said it too, man. The WIP last week was like I don't know, it felt like we unlocked something in terms of like the potential of what we can do in the metaverse and everything. This like WIP Ground Zero sort of sandbox place that we have that like a bunch of people have build rights to it now and are like free to just sort of tinker around with it and add things and whatever. And at some point it might crash or become total chaos because of the amount of things we've added. But dude, I was like in there goofing around with some of the stuff that Coldie sent over, and I really wanted to drive on his face with the car And then like noticed that like Fractilians had dropped in some like grabbable Game Boys in there. So I like,
Yeah.
had my frog. I grabbed a Game Boy. I was able to hop in the car with the Game Boy. And I didn't have his face like on the statue angled enough for me to drive on it or whatever. But I'm like, this is like getting so fun, and I don't know, man. Just I feel like this is where we were always hoping to get to, and having this parcel that we can, Coldie can just send me a bunch of stuff in a folder, and I can just literally drag and drop it in and throw it all over the place and make a mess. I'm like, dude, this is like a really fun unlock for us moving forward, to be able to do stuff like this with other people. And you just remember the process. Like back in the day, I was thinking about this yesterday when, we were much more diligent about when we hosted something somewhere. We would make sure we had build rights or coordinate with them to hang a banner and hang a guest list. And it's like this big fucking process. And Show was like at it for a long ass time, like helping us out with that end of things, getting him on. Who knows how many parcels Show has build rights to at this point? Maybe more than like just about anybody, honestly. Anybody out there, but but I'm like, dude, now we've hit a point where, I was like, we should have some sort of like signage or something for Coldie in there. So I just like pulled an image of his face from his Twitter account and dragged that shit in there and slapped it up on the wall. And it took me like 8 seconds. And I was like, dude, we're getting to a point that we always like wanted to get to, but now I feel like we're starting to arrive there on like this concept that I was tweeting about it yesterday or the day before. I think you'd seen it. How like the first year we were doing this, man, we had this idea in our head of like how we wanted it to be, but it's just been like a feat of technological tinkering and trial and error to get here. But I don't know, man. I'm excited for the future of the WIP.
Yeah. It's that perfect balance of, obviously we think about like who we're bringing on week to week. Sometimes we do like more highly produced events, right? But it's that sort of like smart curation with this like, all right, let's throw some shit in there and see what happens. Like this kind of gritty experimentation where we're like not super concerned about doing something super refined at first. But the curation, like who we actually feature and stuff like that usually carries the show and sands off a lot of like potential rough edges and makes it more interesting for more folks to kind of jump in and see what we're doing week to week. It's this like really cool balance that we found, that it's fun, man. It's like after almost 4 fucking years of doing this, it's still fun. I would actually argue it's getting even more fun. Like especially with WIP Ground Zero, which is, after doing this for so long, and again, like this is a passion project for all of us, the whole WIP fam that comes in and pitches in, the growing WIP fam, now that we got Fractilians coming in and helping us out. It's fun. it's more fun.
No, I feel like we've like really done a good job of finding this sweet spot of like serving up experiences that are like fun and approachable for people who may be intimidated by the tech or everything that's going on, and but also like delivering like high level content from like really interesting people and like really interesting angles. And we should talk about Bring Your Kid to the WIP Day, man, because that was again in this like sort of spirit of it might have some rough edges. It might not be like a perfectly refined thing, but this is like a concept that we wanted to try out. And so we were just like, let's just do it and see what the response is and what happened. And shout out Ogar, man. I feel like Ogar really put together, like really consolidated the takeaways from that event really well in a tweet that he had posted a few days ago, and it was cool to sort of hear from the younger people coming up within the space and their thoughts on what we're currently working with, and what they are interested in and diving into that's relevant to the space, but sometimes not directly. I don't know, man. I feel like we had discussed running that back around the holidays, with a more of a framework and structure now that we have sort of done it once. But I dig it, man. I like that, you probably know this, man. I originally like really hated on the name Work in Progress Meetup or whatever. Uh, and
I don't know this. This is new
yeah,
news.
dude, I really didn't like it. Once Easy dubbed it the Whip, I was like, oh man, that like brought it together for me. It sounds like nice and snappy, and it's like cool and everything. But like Work in Progress Meetup, I was like, it sounds like just kind of boring, and I don't know. I get that that's like what you're trying to do, and like whatever. But the longer I've sat with it, the more I feel like it's really given us a license to do stuff like bring your kid to the WIP day and lean on that name of our event and production. Is just like, dude, everything is a WIP. Everything is a work in progress. We're not out here claiming to have all the pieces put together perfectly. We're just trying new shit constantly. And I dig it, man. It's like a cool ethos to work from.
No, 100%. Like that was the whole intent, like of like getting this off the ground late, like 2020. Honestly, is just let's build the whole plane while we're trying to get the shit off the ground and see where we end up going. And again, shout out to Easy for constantly like distilling and refining names and words into like super catchy expressions. He's a fucking savant.
Yeah.
Like he really is. He's
Yeah.
done that multiple times. The whip is like the most noticeable one, or the one that's most memorable to me. But he has a way with words. He really does.
Yeah, I think he dubbed like the peace, love, and whipsy tagline that has been adopted a few times. R.I.P. Whipsy, or maybe not. I've actually brought that up a couple times recently to a few different people. It was a really cool experiment, man, and unfortunately, like it really got in terms of this, like, sort of, you show up to our events with merch and people could
no speaky.
And we started just got like crushed by gas. But dude, I really feel like it was a great concept that I would love to try and figure out a way to get it from alpha to beta at some point, because I'm like, there's so many, dude, especially now in like shitcoin season, that people are just churning stuff out, and for the sake of hoping they catch a pump and dump cycle, or get in with the right influencer. And I'm like, dude, that was such a great example of like a very simple token that really didn't need to have any like intrinsic value on the marketplace to be able to have like concrete utility and like a very solid like concept behind it, and people were using it for those things. But then we just got to this crazy point where it was like, shit, I'm not going to pay like $50 to claim a free NFT. Like, I want these things, and even I'm not going to do that.
No, yeah, that was a fun little experiment. It's probably best that people don't really remember it.
Thou shalt not speaketh.
It's probably better, honestly.
Maybe just edit that part out, or it's like full of bleeps.
Yeah. Dragonite, just like bleep the shit out of that part that we were just talking about. Yeah, man. But I just love the canvas that we have to play with every single week. To do fun, cool shit with cool, awesome people. That's what it boils down to with that. And I mean, for people that are still here sticking around, like that's the ethos, that's the spirit that should guide pretty much every project. It's the best way, is especially if there's like not a lot of funding or that, like the financial aspect, if that's not exactly 100% clicking right away. Like you get the vibes there, and you can do a lot of stuff for a long time.
Well, dude, I feel like you can expand. Like, that was really the vibe, if you want to get like esoterical or whatever the proper word is for what I'm trying to say here, of the space of Web3 for a very long time, especially early on when there really wasn't much money flying around, and all of Web3 still is like fundamentally a work in progress of people like constantly iterating on other people's projects and ideas and technology and everything. I don't know, man. I feel like I've either curated my Twitter account well enough, or it seems to me, some sort of like a resurgence of that sort of spirit and ethos amongst the people who are still here. And I got to think, like, partially because nothing else is going on. And if you love this space, now's the time to start tinkering around and iterating on stuff, because, the spotlight is off to some extent. And I feel like people are sort of back to building without necessarily expecting a direct monetary result on the back end, because that market where you could just make something and you knew if it was like a certain level of cool or shiny enough, like, it would sell or whatever. But now I feel like a lot of people are sort of put in a position where there's not necessarily that carrot at the end of the stick. And so, we're getting back to more like experimentation for the sake of experimentation. And I dig that, man. I don't know how long that sort of mentality stays around here for. Probably correlates with the price of everything.
Yeah, I mean, in that spirit, I want to shout out the Fakewhale blog that Sky Golpe, Jesse Draxler have put together. They're leaning into like a tightly curated knit network of folks that like to write and think about the art side of the space. So they have this website. We'll link it in the show notes. And they brought together like artists and collectors and critics like Die With the Most Likes, of course, Jesse, Karma Cowboy, Mimi Nguyen, Nighttime Story, JPEG Gallery, Unknown Collector, myself, Alejandro Javaloyas, and just trying to get folks like, yo, this is a good group of people, some super noteworthy people, some that may be flying under the radar. We have a home where they can write and post, and it's curated, and it's leaning into the good shit that folks have liked for a long time, but may have been drowned out by the noise in this space. So we'll see what happens there. If that drives more attention, if that clarifies some of the good stuff that's in this space. I'm really excited to see how that experiment plays out, and excited to see if we can lean into some of the like permissionless syndication, permissionless publishing tools that are available, like using sites like, or protocols like Mirror, leaning into that project that I was talking about last week.
Yeah.
Interface with a network, a group of folks that are posting shit. It's much easier to track and follow, and also much easier to keep quality of content higher, that you're not relying on like one specific person churning out like a post a day. If you have a group of like 10 folks that have a post like once or twice a month, you can be sure that what they do post that once or twice per month time is going to be good. So excited to see how that shit works out and plays out over time.
Yeah, I need to take the time to dive into that because I meant to, and I know you were talking about it last week, and I'm a fan of like those types of experiments and everything. It feels like as you're talking about that, I'm just sort of thinking to myself, man, it feels like people are starting to circle the wagons a little bit in terms of like the people who have been here for a while who are like really, really passionate about the space. It was like, we hit that big boom in 2021, and I feel like that sort of fragmented the community in like all different directions. Not even like in a poorly intentioned way or anything, but everyone was just sort of pulled in different directions, and people are trying to maximize opportunities, and now with like a lot of that hype removed, it seems like a lot of the people who are really passionate about the space are sort of like congregating together again in like various communities, but there just seems to be like a lot more solidarity than there was when it was like peak hype cycle, and it felt sort of like every man for themselves at that point. I'm thinking about like Eclectic Method and Neon Glitch. They just like released that whole district that Neon had put together and on Cyber, but it also like taps into the broadside community. They got this big thing in there, and they're involved in it in like some capacity. And I haven't been able to take the time to like really dive in and know the ins and outs of it. But here's another like community of people that we all know and are friends with and have significant overlap, like, within that community that has put that project together and everything. But I'm like, I like seeing these like, sort of smaller enclaves of like real big believers and people who, frankly, just care a lot about this space. This space means a lot to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons beyond monetary value. And I feel like I love seeing those people come together more and more. And which, I don't know, maybe I'm sort of trying to will it into existence, but it feels like it's happening more and more.
Yeah, no, it's if folks look, they don't even have to squint anymore. There's just more of these examples that it seems like they're popping up more and more. It's like fresh sprouts in this like wide plane that's just like ever expanding in front of us. It's so cool. The folks are still here doing their thing, and doing their thing in a way that's really meaningful and actually it's approachable. There's way more projects for non-technical folks today. For the technical folks, yeah, there's still a lot of those projects out there, like Lens, shitty project, Farcaster, stuff like that, that are just only aimed at folks that really have no sense of like people. But that's cool. They'll build things that real people will use eventually one day.
Dude, let's pause for a second, because I took a moment in the middle of the last podcast to do a solid fading of ENS. Let's dig into why you've mentioned that you've sort of thrown a couple jabs at Lens a few times over the course of the last couple months. Let's unpack this a little bit, man. What is Lens like not doing right here?
Dude, folks don't want to go to a site and then think, okay, well, they have all these add-ons that I could potentially use and incorporate. People they don't want to think about that. They just want to go to a site and use the tools that are right there available to use. Period. Lens is for developers. It's a protocol that allows folks to build like end user applications, but it was kind of sold or like marketed as a social network in and of itself, and it's just completely disingenuous from what it actually is. Yeah, it's just stupid. Also, they didn't hook me up with the free claim, despite like ample on-chain history.
Dude, it's very confusing, man, to be honest with you. And I'm one of those people, I got a million different like projects, apps, things thrown in front of me like every day, and to a certain extent I'm like, dude, if I can't figure this shit out in like 20 seconds, I'm like on to the next thing. And I've like poked around with Lens like a couple times because people have been like highly encouraging of me getting involved over there, and it took me like fucking 3 months to track down Rizzle.Lens from their team, which I finally own and am guilty of not doing shit with it. But for that reason, honestly, I'm like, I don't have time to like learn a whole new thing, like make your thing look like other things, so I just know what to do.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because a lot of the same people that are behind it are the same people that like faded Scent back in the day, or like weren't using it, or you know what I mean. It's just like, all right, like these same jokers, yeah, they can do their thing for their very, very small circle of people that sort of understand what they're doing. And then like the real human beings will create the enjoyable experiences that'll onboard far, far more people and be just like actually fun to use and easy.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most important parts for any like social focused app or project or whatever. Be fun and easy.
Yeah.
At least at the basic level.
I feel like Scent, like changing gears whenever that was several years ago now, like really left a vacuum that has yet to be filled by anybody, really. Like no one's ever really gotten like the combination of things right to attract like the bulk of the true like Web3 enthusiasts without it being like a totally clunky, like, annoying experience and everything. On these lines of streamlining products and everything, though, man, I noticed when I hopped in for Eclectic and Neon's birthday that On Cyber had integrated social logins or whatever, sort of obfuscate, I assume, the whole like Web3 thing. And so I didn't tinker around with it because I've already been in there with my avatar and my wallet and everything. But I'm like, simple stuff like that goes a long way in terms of like an experience like that. If you can log in with your socials and don't really need to know anything, but can pop in and, Eclectic's like live streaming, his set on the big screen and everybody's there and everything, it really takes all of the Web3 out of the whole thing, unless you feel like scratching a layer deeper or start getting into some conversations with everybody.
With
And
the social login, like will like if I log in Nifty Time my Twitter, will that show above my avatar in on
that's a good
Cyber? Is
question.
that okay?
Yeah, that's a good
Can you-
question that I don't know the answer to. I'm pretty sure you can customize that however you want to on your profile. So I don't know, man. Maybe it's not like, totally perfect or refined, but I'm like, this is like, some Web2 normie onboarding that I can get down with, because, here you are essentially just making it streamlined for them to get to a Web3 community event. And from there, give them a taste of what's going on without them having to goof around with all this, onboarding into crypto and, all this shit. So I was like, that's pretty cool that we're starting to move in that direction a little bit. And I don't know how like you reverse course from that, or other people don't start to pile on with that sort of like onboarding experience, because it's just, opening the doors to a whole other category of people.
Yeah, I mean, but what you were saying, like making it easy to get in at first, and then if you want to get deeper, I mean, there should be compelling reasons to justify like the quote unquote friction or like extra steps folks will need to do to log in with their ETH address or ENS or whatever, right?
Yep.
But whatever we can do to make it super easy and snappy for people to jump in and like dip their toes in the water. That's everything that can be done towards that end is laudable, in my personal opinion. And the folks at On Cyber, they are making something that is really easy to use and seems to be quite highly performant, especially at scale too, which is pretty cool to see. And like they have builders like Neon Glitch in there. They just have fucking awesome spaces that are just super cool to be a part of. And they have cool communities like Cult Crypto Art and everyone that's a part of that going in and like already like established musicians in their own right that are putting on just like cool spaces for people to jump in on top of like the whole crypto layer that's like bubbling and percolating below that.
Yeah, Cold Crypto Art is another great example of like a cool enclave that has sort of sprung up that's like very like large in terms of like, it being strictly filled with like curated, artists and enthusiasts of the space and everything. And it's cool to see, that continue to be a thing and active in the space and everything. Yeah, man, love seeing that stuff. Dude, the other thing, so it's sort of wild, man, like being in that thing with Eclectic Method and Neon Glitch. Like you're saying, Neon's like a master builder, and I couldn't help but have like flashbacks to like the old WIP days, which again probably prompted that post that I had made talking about us crashing everything. I'm like, dude, Trippy Yogi was really like the OG like Eclectic Method of the metaverse, man. Like there were probably other people who did what he was doing periodically, but I'm like, dude, Trippy Yogi was like spinning in the metaverse on a regular basis, and crashing parcels with us early on, and like thinking about those experiences, and then like being in the Eclectic and Neon Glitch space and seeing like all these bodies up in there and like everything performing like really seamlessly and the live stream like pumping, and I'm like, wow, man, we've just like come such a far way from like these early experiments that we were doing. Now we've got like really talented builders and musicians, not that we didn't have them then, but like here's something that we sort of pioneered this concept, and now people are doing it at scale on their own, like completely outside of well, I guess not completely outside of our orbit, because Eclectic and Neon are cool with us and everything, but it's just crazy to see like how large the space has expanded to, and how like some of these concepts that we were like really trying to push early on are like being executed at a high level by other people. And I don't know, it's just wild, man, having been there from like such early days when like really none of this was very possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how direct a role we played in it, but pushing forward the good parts of culture and trying to spread those positive seeds of culture far and wide, like it's beautiful to see the outcome already, and it's still really early, right? But to see so many folks embody that early spirit, those early vibes, that's just going to hopefully set the stage for those folks to do their own thing in their own way that onboards more folks and inspires other people to do that sort of thing just in future generations, future metaverse generations. So
Yeah,
yeah, man.
it's cool, man.
Good
I'm
vibes.
feeling like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, just good vibes.
Yeah, it is, dude. It's good vibes. I feel like, there's a lot of enthusiasts around here who are really like hungry for the next thing and want to like keep moving forward. And it almost seems like the, pace of advancement was not stagnant, but like sort of slowed down by, the speculation and the hype cycle and everything. But, and the Whip Ground Zero is a great example, man. It's like inspiring to have like new things to play around with and like be pushing stuff forward in a way that like really very few people are messing with and tinkering around with, and there wasn't a lot of like, and we do a pretty good job honestly of like being metaverse agnostic. Certainly helps to be able to like find the coolest shit out there going on and tee that up every week, but now it seems like for a while there we were like being pretty proactive with lining up guests and speakers and events for the WIP. And now it seems like we're almost falling into this situation that we had been in a while ago where, people are hitting us up and suddenly we're booked like, a month, 2 months out sometimes. And of people who are doing like really cool stuff and want to show off their ideas and are back to pushing the space forward and everything. So I don't know, man. I'm digging, the good vibes of wherever we're at in the NFT metaverse crypto world right now.
Yeah. And on that point, like almost without trying, we're booked out over a month already. Like the rest of August is already spoken for. We're already a couple September whips are pretty much already spoken for as well. So having that sort of like inbound, it's always one of the most positive signals for something like this where, yeah, of course, like if we need to, like we can go spin up a couple speakers, come in, and if there's anything new on the radar, like we can incorporate that. But for the most part, there's this burgeoning ecosystem and like we have like all these friends, these digital friends that are doing cool shit that are hitting us up that kind of just works for everyone to make and craft these fun experiences around. But yeah.
Dude, sorry, go ahead.
Like I was reflecting on some of like because doing this for years and years and like there's a lot of things that we've done like you and me just together talking to other folks, like hosting these things, and I was just a little reflection period, like what shows have we recorded together like that are not like Mars, that are not the WIP. So I was putting together a little post of some of these things that we've done in the past and like that I've done, and the list is pretty dank. I'll share it with you after this. But like, I mean, going back to like the Token Smart podcasts that you, me, and Trislet co-hosted back in like 2020, like basically just live streaming the post-WIP post-mortem. Like, fuck, what this broke this week and what are we going to do next week?
I'm so glad we recorded those while we were going through the struggles. I would love to re-listen to them. I haven't in a very, very long time.
Yeah. But like just like collating all of those things in one space to make it easy for folks to go back and check out like the actual lived history as we record it in real time. It's really important. There's a lot of things that I just had totally forgot about that I was even on, but just the exercise of bringing it all together in one space I found was helpful. And what we had, I shared that long ass list of like WIP speakers and then guests on our podcast. So that's going to be the next post in and of itself, just capturing all of that. So we have this like an easy to refer to living document for like all the history that we've helped create.
Yeah, dude. I specifically remember there was like one podcast after like 2 or 3 whips in a row where everything had failed or whatever, and I remember making some comment that was just like, oh shit, man, I don't want like every single one of these podcast recordings to just be like us being like, fuck, everything broke again, like what the fuck are we gonna do? But in retrospect, I'm sort of glad we have a bunch of those in succession. It'll probably be like really entertaining to listen to, especially because, man, like that was like really live period of experimentation where we were just simply trying to find the right combination of things that worked to pull off a successful event, like period, given the present day technology and everything, which was like quite the challenge. So, and yeah, in comparison to where we're at today, I feel like we've really got like a well-oiled machine going on with the WIP crew. Is like, we got something coming down the pike, everybody knows what to do, and everyone's like pretty confident in the formula, and we just knock out like a killer event. Yeah, man, we've come a very long way. I would love to check out that list of stuff that you're putting together. I wonder if I can dig up some things as well. One thing that I was reflecting on, man, I don't know, I must have been in this like reflection period with the WIP that I didn't even realize I was in until this podcast. But we mentioned this like a few weeks ago in a different context, but there was some point we got to at the WIP where like things were really blowing up in terms of everything in the space. It was right before, I think, the big hype cycle, but it was when I was still working at NFT 42 and we were hosting it in Token Smart, and it was like around the time of the VFriends launch, which I was like peripherally involved in with NFT 42. And they helped out with like Snoop's launch, and we did like a whole bunch of things for a lot of like big name people and stuff, and so like questions sort of started rolling in, like, what is the WIP's angle here? Like, are we going to start trying to cater to some of these higher name influencers who are coming into the space and, make an effort to just really get on like the biggest people we can find who are doing something relevant in NFTs. And then to your point before, man, in terms of like inbound stuff, it was also at a period of time where we were getting a ton of inbound inquiries about people who wanted to speak on the WIP. And we were sort of just doing what we had always done in terms of just sort of curating our speaker list from the people who sounded the coolest, who were doing cool stuff from the inbound requests that we were getting. And there was like one point in time where we probably could have had anybody that we wanted, but I think it was Strawberry Sith. And if he's listening, man, tag the person. We tried to find him a while ago, but couldn't. It had some sort of like wood block NFT project that was like so obscure and so random, but it was cool. And it was like a great example of like, I feel like that was sort of like a turning point, or like where the WIP sort of like found its identity in terms of what angle it was going to take with the space expanding so rapidly. And we could have had anyone in the world, but we had this niche like woodblock project on that was like tied to an NFT, and it was an inbound request, and the dude was so excited to be on the WIP, and our audience just thought it was so cool. This like, strange niche project and everything. And he sold through like all his wood blocks and everything, and he was stoked, and our audience was stoked. And I was like, this just feels like correct, or like the way we should continue to customize our experience and the crowd that we should cater to. And it's never really been like about all that, but it very much could have been, man. And a lot of other projects went in that direction. And some I followed more than not. Some have been more successful than others and everything. But I don't know, man. I feel like that was a big like defining moment around that time period for the WIP, where you and I don't even think we had like a specific conversation, or maybe we did, but I feel like, the direction was always in that direction, but there was definitely like a moment of questioning where it was like, okay, hey, we now have the opportunity to get celebs and big name speakers and everything on here. And like, do we want that? And we're like, I don't know, this woodblock project seems so cool though.
100%, dude. And this is sort of getting into like a super reflective kind of conversation. And for folks listening, if you're sticking around up until this point, our like Rizzle and myself, like our proper like recording anniversary of 4 years is coming up at the end of August. Like we're gonna have a reverse / like regular spotlight on one another, just going in and reflecting on the past 4 years of talking shit together and like doing cool shit in crypto land, NFT land, in the metaverse. So
this will be great, dude. because when I like originally interviewed you, I don't think I've ever like really done a proper interview with you since then, and like so much has changed. And like you and I, when we originally interviewed each other, which sort of kicked off this whole Matt and Rizzle show, 4 years ago or whatever, I think we were both sort of still like mysterious figures to each other at that point, and I was mostly a non. And everyone was at that point, that was just sort of like the nature of the space and everything. And so I came into the interview and I'm like, dude, I want to see who this motherfucker is. And I was like, what is a day in the life of your life like, dude? Like, what do you do? And like, but I honestly, I mean, inherently, I have some idea of what you've been up to over the last 4 years, but we haven't really had a chance to like really deep dive into what's going on with each other in that same sort of like spotlight type of setting and everything. So I'm stoked, dude. I'm really looking forward to it. I have no idea if anyone else cares or is interested, but I'm like, dude, I'm really excited for this one.
Same here, man. It's a couple weeks. That's gonna be fun. But dude, I think this is probably a perfect place to wrap up. Jump into the rest of our day, and then see everyone at the WIP, Coldie's WIP. Let's call it like that, on Thursday.
Yeah. Should be a really, really fun one. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes for this one to make it a unique experience. We'll call it that.
Boom. All right. Later, brother.
All right. Later, man.
Cool. Everything's set for the WIP, right? Oh, you already bounced. Rizzle always rugging me.